7 years ago on a New York City subway. Well, hello, everyone. That helps me a lot, actually. Macy and I shared, unknowingly at the time, a critical moment of vulnerability. That day, she confided to me for the first time that she struggles with confidence. I couldn't believe it. Really, I was shocked. Macy had always been my rock. I'd seen her soar through life, and I always looked to her thinking, I wish I had half her confidence. Even though we'd been best friends and teammates for years, we'd never shared that secret part of ourselves with one another.
And when Beth confided in me that she also struggled with confidence, I was in complete disbelief. I mean, there was a reason I confided in her in the first place. Beth and I left that New York City subway wondering if we were alone. Turns out, we're not. Only 20% of all US Congress seats are owned by females, and only 16% leadership positions within Fortune 500 companies are owned by females. Could our levels of confidence be holding us back? Beth and I wanted to dig in and find out more, if for nothing, our own confidence.
We all have this critical inner voice inside us. We call it the alter ego. I'm sure you know it. That freeloading bully that lives inside your mind, always eager to cut you at the knees and remind you of all your faults and failures just when you need confidence the most. Yeah, it's awesome. Meet my alter ego. This is 4th grade Beth. It's okay to laugh at her, but don't be fooled by her cuteness. She's a terror in my mind. 4th grade Beth doesn't believe she's capable of much of anything. She is timid and shy, and she lacks self-confidence and love. And throughout my life, she has loved to pull me down into her space of insecurity.
On the other hand, 8-year-old Macy did not struggle with confidence at all. She knew for a fact that she was going to be the first woman to play in the majors. And when I told my dad back then that I was going to be first base for the Kansas City Royals just like George Brett, he told me that probably wasn't a good idea because I wasn't left-handed. So I changed my mind. I was no longer going to be first base. I was going to be shortstop. It wasn't until my early 20s that my alter ego started to creep in and started saying paralyzing things, reminding me to constantly strive for perfection. And it's better to go unnoticed than to make a mistake. What happened to that confident little girl? Luckily for Beth and I, our alter egos were on opposite trajectories for most of our friendship. We could rely on the other person whenever we had those feelings of inadequacy to be able to feel whole. While we're both still a work in progress, we like to take an active stance in this particular area of our lives, and hopefully we can be an inspiration to younger girls that we know.
Digging a little deeper, we found that even though statistically women maintain higher GPAs in school than men, and women are more likely to go on and earn higher levels of education, women are also more likely to settle for lower paying positions after earning their degrees, and they're less likely to champion for themselves in the workplace. But why do we do this? There was a research study conducted in 2010 that found that women apologize more than men. But not because women are more willing to accept blame, it's because women perceive more things offensive and apology-worthy than men do. But you see, perception is reality, right? The way we perceive or think about the world around us, that becomes our own unique reality. And our thoughts and perceptions can either empower us or really limit us. Women often feel we need to apologize for sharing our opinions or taking up too much space. Men don't do that. And how many times have you heard women start sentences with the words, "I'm sorry, but"? This over-apologetic epidemic, coupled with our quest for perfection, really holds women back. Women are less likely to speak up in meetings because we doubt ourselves, and we're more critical on one another as well. Women, we've got to support one another, but it begins with supporting ourselves. First, we need to recognize these beliefs that exist within us and try to determine where they come from. Is this something innate in us or something that society is teaching us? Studies in neuroscience have discovered that the female brain shows high levels of sensitivity to social and emotional cues, which means that women are better at reading the emotions of others and showing empathy. The female brain also shows high levels of positive response to relationships. We care very deeply about human relationships. They make us feel good. But the downside to that is sometimes when we want to get ahead, we fear damaging those relationships that we care about, and that holds us back. But our natural tendencies towards emotions and relationships make for great leadership qualities, as I'm sure you'd agree. One disadvantage to the female biology is that self-esteem tends to plummet right around the age of puberty, and this is much more common in girls than boys. That's a big part of why Macy and I want to help. But we seem to think that there's more going on with society than with our own female biology that's holding women back. Rachel Simmons is another advocate for empowering young girls. She's the founder of the Girls Leadership Institute. When young female participants arrive to her program, she asks them to describe what society expects of a good girl. Here are just a few of the common answers. Good girls are people pleasers, they have tons of friends, no opinions, and they're perfect, to name just a few. Next, the girls are asked to describe what's a bad girl. Bad girls have tough attitudes, they don't care what people think, they speak their minds, and they're proud. When I look at these words, I can't help but wonder what it is we're teaching young girls about how to be good or well-mannered that gives them this definition of good versus bad. These lists reflect the reality of countless females of all ages, but we can change that. In the classroom, we praise young girls for sitting quietly in their seats and not speaking out of turn. But as a result, little boys, as the rambunctious ones, they begin to establish their status to speak up ahead of women in early education. Ironically, notice how many words in the bad girl category also equate to fantastic leadership qualities. I know I would appreciate a leader who has some grit, is an authentic and confident direct communicator, wouldn't you? These attributes that we praise young girls for are counterproductive to their ability to be strong leaders in the workplace later in life. As we do our best to raise good girls, it's also essential that we do whatever we can to build girls up before they become women struggling to find their place in the world. Macy and I believe we can use practices of neuro-linguistic programming in the development and education of young girls to help teach them to empower themselves, as we've done for ourselves in our adult lives. Maybe you're not familiar with neuro-linguistic programming. Well, you've come to the right place, my friends. I will explain. Neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, is a psychological practice that was developed in the 70s by two men who were attempting to model human excellence. Let's break it down a little bit. Neuro refers to the processes in the mind. Linguistic refers to our habitual language, maybe like those apologies. And programming refers to the patterns of behavior that shape our lives. There are many different practices in NLP, and they've helped people overcome stutters, anxiety, phobias, depression, and even lack of confidence. It really begins with mindfulness and self-awareness. If we can first be aware of our thoughts and how they impact our behaviors, then we can begin to alter any thoughts or behaviors that are damaging or limiting in our lives. One limiting belief that I've carried with me through my life is that I'm just never enough. I don't mean to brag, but my limiting beliefs are pretty versatile. You can pretty much fill in the blank in any given life event, and fourth grade Beth is quick to do so. So I always fear that I'm not smart enough, or talented enough, or experienced, or brave, or pretty, or petite. You get the picture, right? So had I never recognized that these were my own self-imposed limiting beliefs, I would have never had the opportunity to go on in life and realize my true potential. But now that I've identified that, that's the first step, now I can use practices of neuro-linguistic programming to help turn down the volume on my alter ego's voice, or bottle up shining moments to use again at another time when I need a boost of confidence. Or I can change my thought patterns to essentially shift my reality and redefine my mindset entirely. There's a practice in neuro-linguistic programming that suggests that we laugh away the voice of our alter ego. So as it starts to do its thing and assault your mind with all these failures you've had in your life, like that science test in 1991, who even remembers that stuff? Imagine how empowering it would be if you could just laugh back in the face of that bully. Now, little tip, you might want to practice that out loud at home rather than in the boardroom just before the big meeting. But what's exciting for us is if girls can learn to implement these tools at a young age, learn to turn down the volume of that alter ego's voice or laugh it away, just imagine how many more girls would believe that they can go after whatever they want and go on to show the world what a huge impact women can make at the executive level.
Beth and I have had countless conversations with friends, mentors, and coworkers over the past few years to better understand how women we know have dealt with these feelings of inadequacy and lack of confidence. It was through these conversations that the GRIT program was born. The dictionary defines grit as firmness of mind or spirit, unyielding courage in the face of hardship or danger. We've added to this definition through the acronym Girls Realizing Impact Together. The GRIT program is a workshop that uses creativity to get girls to discover what makes them unique, special, and different, and also celebrate that of their friends. We do things like we create a journal, and we look at our handprints to understand that we all have traits that are unique to us, and no matter how hard we try, we can never mimic that of others. We also use NLP exercises such as reflection and mindfulness to be able to tap into memories and also understand that we're ultimately in control of all of our thoughts. The GRIT program was officially kicked off 2 years ago when I was volunteering in East London, South Africa at a school called Hope Prep. Hope Prep is a school that was started to educate children who have been infected and affected by HIV. I've had the honor and privilege of volunteering there over the last 5 years. When we were there 2 years ago, there was a little girl who was 7 at the time, and a question I like to ask the kids, mainly out of curiosity, is, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember this little girl looked up at me and half-heartedly said, a cleaner. It occurred to me that a cleaner was very well the best example she could think of. Her home life examples were not good. Her mother was a prostitute, and her grandmother was an alcoholic. As the GRIT team got around this little girl and reminded her of the many things that she was good at, such as helping her classmates. She had beautiful handwriting and a smile that could light up the room. You could literally see the wheels start turning. Her eyes widened as she started to think of the new possibilities. She determined she was going to be a teacher instead. While the social needs of girls all around the world are different, the theme remains the same. We all can benefit from getting in a room and talk about the thing that unites us, and that we're girls. One of the activities we do in the GRIT program is called My Big Five. We ask the girls to write numbers 1 through 5, and then we have them reflect on things that they love most about themselves. We've done this now in South Africa and the United States, and we've seen a common thread across all. The younger girls are so eager to get started, and they furiously write and raise their hand, eager to share their list. The older girls, however, junior high and older, some really struggle with this exercise. Oftentimes, we have to brainstorm with them just to get their list to be complete. But inversely, whenever we partner them up with somebody else, they're so quick to give out these compliments. They can give out 5 to their friend very easily. Why are we so quick to give out those compliments, yet we're so hard on ourselves? We have to find a way for girls to own these gifts as fact, as opposed to dismissing them as wavering opinion. After we were in South Africa last February, one of the teachers wrote us and said, your GRIT program has changed lives. There are no longer small cliques, and the older girls just seem closer and happier. It's not that Beth and I think we have all of the answers with GRIT. It's just that we understand how girls can benefit from a sense of community and empowerment and encouragement. One of the techniques we mentioned is reflection, and I'm actually going to walk you through an exercise right now there in your seats. This is an activity we do with all the girls regardless of age. The younger ones, it might be as simple as a conversation, but the older ones, we really ask them to commit their minds to this activity, which is what I'm going to ask you to do right there. If you could close your eyes and keep them closed for the next few moments. With your eyes closed, I want you to reflect upon a time where you felt an enormous sense of empowerment. You felt achievement. Maybe it was a goal you recently checked off your list. I want you to put yourself in that exact moment when you achieved that. I want you to think about all of the things that were happening around you when that happened. I want you to imagine any sounds you heard. Is there a smell or taste associated with this memory? I want you to really feel what you felt, all of the thoughts and emotions that went into that. As you own all of those senses, I want you to imagine a spotlight in front of you. This spotlight is just big enough for you to step into. I want you to change that spotlight's color and change it again. You get to determine the color of the spotlight because you own it. It's yours. Now I want you to step into the spotlight, bringing with you all of the thoughts, feelings, and sentiment you had just outside the circle. I want you to know you can tap into this feeling of empowerment, anytime that you need. Now I want you to envision a future event that requires more courage than you typically need. Maybe there's an upcoming presentation, or maybe you need to ask for a raise. Whatever that is, knowing that you harness the ability, I want you to imagine you accomplish that task without any problems. Now I want you to step outside the circle and open your eyes. This is just one small example of a way that you can implement NLP in your life to overcome some of the obstacles you may be up against. So there's a few things that we all can do to help the girls in our lives achieve their full potential. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or a cool aunt like Beth and I, there's a few things that you can do with the girls you know. In terms of language, speak words of power into young girls. It's so easy to compliment them on how pretty they are or their cute dress. But don't forget, there's so much more that goes into making girls whole. Compliment them on their sense of humor, or let them know how much you love to watch them play soccer. Inversely, be mindful of your own self-criticism. Young minds are listening, and their minds are like sponges. If you can't refrain from saying something like, they probably think I'm so fat, or I look so stupid, just don't say anything at all. Lastly, don't forget to praise kids for the journey as well as the achievement. The hard work that goes into something is just as important as the achievement itself. On the action side, just like we used reflection in NLP, in grit, you can also do that with girls that you know. Encourage them to reflect upon times where they felt an enormous sense of empowerment and to tap into that anytime that they feel those feelings of criticism. Finally, encourage girls to take risks. Whenever we get girls outside of their comfort zone, they start to be comfortable there. They start to take on unknown tasks with courage as opposed to fear. Because fearless girls grow into fearless women.
So ask yourselves tonight, who are the girls in your lives that you can help empower and encourage?
Together, we all can help shape the future women leaders of the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you.